And first on that agenda this afternoon is Alan Glickenhouse from IBM. Alan is joining us virtually from Florida in the States, and is going to be talking to us about the differences between ecosystems, marketplaces, and platforms with his very deeply researched and experienced perspectives on the world of APIs. So really looking forward to him speaking. Do contribute any questions for Alan to the online chat on the stage. We'll be there either answering them at the end, and I'll now invite Alan to join us.
Great. All right, so I'm in, and I think I'm sharing already, so let me get into slideshow mode here. Hide that away. Does this look good, Claire?
That looks great.
Okay, great. All right, so we're off and running. All right, well, welcome virtual Helsinki people. I wish I were there with you. This is my second virtual trip to Helsinki this year. I would like to have actually gone at least once, but hopefully next year we can all meet in person. So as Claire said, my name is Alan Glickenhouse. I work for IBM. I'm the digital transformation and API business strategist, and today we'll talk about positioning of ecosystems, marketplaces, and platforms. These are three areas that I'm getting a lot of questions about. Almost every customer that I'm going to speak to nowadays is somehow or other heard of these and wants to be one. And so I thought it would be good to kind of fall back and define them and understand how they all work together. So this is who I am. I do a lot of the API Days events, all the API Days events. I also do one-on-one workshops with businesses, and when I'm not traveling, which is nowadays, I am writing a lot. So I've written over 150 different articles, papers, blogs, various things on the topics that you see listed at the bottom of the screen here. And at the end of the presentation, and when you get the content from this conference, you'll have the links to all of the things that I've written about. So today I have written articles on ecosystems, marketplaces, and platforms, and I'm going to basically pull from what I've written about and put it into this kind of a format so that we can talk about how these all fit together. So one of the other topics I've spoken at, I think maybe even in the previous Helsinki API Days, was something we called the journey map for the API economy, which is a maturity model. And we talked about how we see the API economy maturing over time. And this is a one-page summary of that presentation. And the reason why I put it in this presentation is if you look at the top left quadrant here, those are the levels of maturity, and the rest of this has to do with the model that we put together for how to measure your maturity. But in the levels, the fourth one up, expanding to full digital market solutions, is really what we're talking about today. So this is getting on there in maturity. This is not something that people are just starting with or getting their feet wet. This is for companies that are really moving along to quite a mature level of capabilities in the API space, and hopefully more to come in level 5. We're not going to talk about that today, but that's the positioning of where this is. So let's make believe we're in person, right? So I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, and hopefully you'll play along with me here. So which of these scenarios requires an ecosystem? So scenario 1, we have a car buyer who's shopping for a new car. They're researching their options. They want to decide what car they want. They decide what they want to purchase. They then purchase the car from an auto dealership, maybe online nowadays. That includes the financing and the insurance that they need for their car. So that's scenario 1. Scenario 2 is the shopper is in a retail store or online or on a mobile app, and they want to buy a present for their child or relative for the holidays. And they know that the child wants this new hot toy. Every year there's the new hot toy around the holidays that everybody must have. And so the retail store sells the toy to the consumer. So if you think number 1, it needs an ecosystem, raise your hand. And if you think, so, okay, that's good. And if you think number 2 needs an ecosystem, raise your hands. And I know some of you out there didn't raise your hand, but in any case, the answer should be that you raised your hand for both of them. So the first one is more obvious, right? So we had an auto purchase situation going on with researching car options. So that may deal with multiple different vendors. What vendors, actual sellers have the car in stock that you want. Then having the actual purchase happen, the financing and the insurance may deal with multiple different industries to get that all together, and putting that ecosystem together for that car buyer is the ecosystem that we want to build. For the second one, it doesn't seem like there's as many industries involved, right? So it's just a retail scenario where the retail shopper wants to buy something and gets it. But even in this case, if you've ever dealt with this hot toy situation, I know here in the U.S., and I expect it's everywhere, not an easy thing to deal with these hot toys. How many need to be in stock to meet the demand, the supply chain that needs to deal with that. We've just recently dealt with a similar kind of scenario where many of our supplies were affected by COVID-19 situations, right? And the supply chain got disrupted. It's kind of a similar thing. You get an unexpected demand on the supply chain. So inventory, sales, delivery, putting together that whole scenario, again, is an ecosystem. So, I encourage you to think about what's your ecosystem. One of the phrases I often use with businesses is, what's your business next door, right? The other business that people, that you need to supply the complete solution for a customer. So every business has one, and we see this all over the place. And so I'll give you another example, and I, just to be nice to the travel industry, who's just having a terrible time nowadays. They've done a pretty good job of this in the travel industry. If you look at putting together ecosystems, if you go to any travel site or an airline or a hotel or a rental car site, you almost always can also purchase the other ones of those things. So if you're at an airline site, they'll want to sell you a hotel room and a rental car and all the other combinations of that, right? So they've built ecosystems around what people want when they travel and how to put together the full solution. So think about what's your ecosystem, and that's the target audience that you want to find to work together. So let's take a look at how you put together an ecosystem and how we've done this in the past and how we're doing it now and where I think this is going to go in the future, right? So there's a business side to this and there's an IT side to this. And so the first part is typically the business side. When you as company A are going to work with company B, we have a business relationship discussion where you agree on how you're going to work together, what the financial arrangements are going to be, setting up that partnership kind of a scenario. And that can take weeks or months to happen. And then at the end of that, we then pass it off to the IT organization to interact with each other, right? So that a transaction from one company can be passed into the other company as needed to do the things that are needed to reserve the rental car with the airline reservation or something like that. Setting up that technical interaction also can take weeks or months, and it involves exposing an interface from your company to their company, securing that interface, teaching them how to use it, making sure that they can do it successfully, making sure that they see only the data they're supposed to see and not other things. And that sets up for many weeks of work, if not months, to get that done historically. The next thing we do is do it with another partner, and we repeat the whole thing all over again. So we're doing weeks and months to set up the business relationship, weeks and months to set up the technology interaction for each one of these different partners, and we do it again and again. And so when we think about building an ecosystem, part of the implication there is that we want to do a lot of partners. We don't want to just have one or two partners. We want to have a good amount that can reach new markets, get us into places that we weren't in before, right? So now that's how we've done it historically. Looking at how we're doing it now, unfortunately, we haven't done much in fixing the business aspect, right? This is still being done in a very one-off kind of a scenario, where we have to have this individual conversation with each other partner that we deal with. But we have done a good job on onboarding of partners, and this is using, of course, APIs. And so if we decide that we want to have a certain type of partner scenario, we may do a bunch of work in the first time to set up the APIs for, if I'm an airline, for how a rental car company can deal with me, or a hotel company, or so on. But once I've built these APIs and I've set up the security and I've set up the rate limits and I've got a developer portal in place, that once the business discussion is over, all I need to do is give you access to that developer portal to onboard yourself to use these APIs to interact with me. So I've made that a much quicker thing to do. And in fact, when I do the second and third one of these, even though the business discussion is going to take a long time, I really just need to allow the technical people and the other company to access the developer portal, and they can onboard themselves as well. So we've done a pretty good job of expediting the onboarding process on the technology side, not so much on the business side. Now, where do I think this is going to go in the future? And so we've got the crystal ball up there on the top. I will warn you that I have not yet won the lottery, so my track record on predicting the future is not 100%. But this is my best shot at it, right? So I don't think we might get days down to a smaller number for onboarding, but days is pretty good. We don't really, it's not going to make a big impact if we get this days down to hours or something like that. But we do need to get the business relationship to happen faster. If we're really going to expand the ecosystems better, we need to get the days significantly, get the business relationship done significantly faster. And we want to replicate that across multiple businesses without having to recreate this for every business that we deal with. And so that's the challenge. The question is, how are we going to do that? And I'm going to come back to that thought, but I'm not going to answer it right now. So let's move forward and start to talk about marketplaces. So marketplaces, general definition is where buyers and sellers come together to transact business. And if you apply that to APIs, it's where people come together to consume APIs. And so providers offer their APIs to target consumers who come in, see what APIs are offered to them, and then they choose which ones they like. Typically, that is done in a portal, part of an API management solution. So I am talking to lots of businesses about these topics, and some of them, when they say marketplace, what they mean is that their business is going to offer their APIs to people outside their company. Many people would not consider that to be a marketplace, but they're using the term marketplace. So I'm calling it a simple marketplace, right? It's where their business, their only business, is the only one who provides APIs, and they hope that many consumers, many different partners will come in and use these APIs. And they consider this a marketplace because it's a way of providing their APIs to consumers who are outside their company, and they're thinking a little bit about monetization, the correct definition of monetization, which means making money through the use of APIs, not charging for APIs. You may not charge them for them, but it should drive new revenue for you by having people use your APIs to provide more customers to use your services. So this is a simple marketplace. Some people might say this is not really a marketplace because it's just one vendor. It's like having a one store mall, right? It's not really a mall. It's a store. So let's talk about what most people do consider marketplaces, and this is where multiple vendors are offering their APIs to multiple consumers, and typically there's a host for the marketplace, and in this case, I'm calling that your business. So let's say your business wants to be a marketplace, and you're going to offer your APIs already to your customers, and there's a trust relationship between your business and your customers, that they have worked with you, they understand you, they appreciate you as a vendor, they believe you do a good work for them, and they have trust in you as a business. But your business does not supply them with everything they need. There are other businesses that also are necessary for them to do work with. And so if, let's say, they need shipments as part of their business and you don't do shipping, so you might do some vetting and onboarding of shipment vendors and their APIs to bring them into your marketplace. And then for any other number of things that you don't offer that other businesses do, you can vet and onboard these other vendors and put these in the marketplace. And now what that's accomplished is the business relationship between your customers and these other vendors is now handled by you. You have done the vetting and onboarding and done the research for whether or not this is a trusted partner that they should trust in. And their trust in you is allowing them to say, okay, these vendors are good. I want to use them, and I'll spend money in this marketplace and use them. And there's various models, which we'll get into in a second here, for how that might work. This is what most people are thinking about when they're thinking about marketplaces, right? That there are multiple vendors, multiple consumers coming together in this kind of a mall, a shopping mall of APIs. And I'm using the word shopping mall here intentionally, because what I'm seeing in my conversations with businesses is that everybody wants to be the marketplace. Nobody wants to be in another person's marketplace. And that's just simply not going to happen. So you have to figure out, why should you be a marketplace, and why will other people want to be in your marketplace? If you think about individual stores versus shopping malls, if every individual store wanted to be a shopping mall, we only had shopping malls, who would be the stores that are in those malls besides yourself, right? It's just not going to happen that everything is a marketplace, right? So we need someone who's going to step up and be marketplaces, and it's not going to be everybody. So why should an API provider, another vendor, choose you as their marketplace where they want to represent their products? And a couple of answers might be that you already have a lot of consumers looking there, right? So if that's the case, you may be very attractive to other businesses to put their offerings in your marketplace because you have an audience. More likely at the beginning, when you're starting off, you have some kind of a synergy between your offerings and these other vendors' offerings that complete a solution together, and that's more likely. I mentioned there are many monetization models for this as well, and you might offer for people to put their APIs in your marketplace for free, that they don't have to pay you anything, you don't pay them anything. And the reason why that might be a good model is if you have a lot of API providers, that'll attract a lot of consumers, which increases the consumption for everybody. So everybody's going to benefit. So that's a model that might work. Or alternatively, you might charge them on some metric, how many views you send them, how many referrals, how many signups, some other kind of thing, if they're using value-added services that you provide, and so on. Or there might be some indirect model where you are getting revenue based on the revenue that they're generating through the APIs that they've offered in your marketplace. The next set of things to think about, and I think everything on this page is critical for you to think about as you're thinking about marketplaces, is what kind of value-added services are you providing to these API providers and consumers? Are you doing any kind of verification of them? Like I mentioned on the previous slide, if you're not validating who the vendors are in your mall, in your marketplace, then anybody can just come in and put their APIs there. That's a model that you may choose to use. Programmable web is doing that, right? Anybody in the world can advertise their APIs on a programmable web, and then you just pass them on to that. But other cases, you may want to do more, right? So maybe you're hosting their API for them. Maybe you're providing analytics. You're providing billing. You're providing other kinds of things. And then what are you saying about these API providers? Are you saying that you have vetted them and that they are in fact good companies to deal with? Or are you just saying nothing about them and leaving it, as you still have to do the research on what partners you want to deal with if you come to me? Like if you find an API in programmable web, you don't know what their scalability is or security or any of these other things. You have to validate that yourself, right? And so what kind of verification are you providing? So think about, obviously, many of the companies I'm talking to, they want to be an API marketplace, but why should a provider or consumer choose you? Right? And These, I think, are some good questions to think about in that area. So in answer to the earlier question on how do we get the business relationship shrunk down to days, the answer is if we can create a marketplace kind of a scenario where there are standard terms and conditions for anyone who consumes the APIs, that becomes a way of reducing the dynamics of how other businesses are going to deal with you, and they either accept or don't accept the standard terms and conditions that can let them on board in days. So with that, let me move on to the last topic, which is platforms. And so this is one of these words that when you look up the definition of a platform, you get entirely different meanings from one another, even in the API space, right? So in IBM, we talk about an API management platform that is the API management solution that we offer from IBM called API Connect. It does lifecycle management, security, helps you build and manage all your APIs. And then there's a second definition, which is talking about a platform that consumers use that brings together all these APIs in a way that organizations can build on top of these and make something that is useful to consumers. And it's the second definition that I'm talking about here, right? IBM would love me to talk more about the first one, but today we're going to talk about the second one, right? So, in my thinking, as I've thought about this definition of platform and the things I've just spoken about for ecosystem and marketplace, I'm seeing that the one option for businesses that are thinking about this is that they create a digital platform which is equal to providing a digital ecosystem of partners that work together well in different scenarios, and the API marketplace that offers this to their consumers, their joint consumers. And I think in most cases, this is the most common approach. This is what people are really targeting. It's that combination of ecosystem and marketplace together that forms a platform that offers benefit to their consumers and benefit to them as businesses. And this is the goal. And for many people, this is the desired destination, and this is really where they want to be. And you know, they don't really have a vision to go past this in the sense of creating a digital platform. But I also think there is something that could go further than that, and that's where a digital platform is greater than the sum of the parts, the digital ecosystem and marketplace. And you see companies like eBay and Amazon and other companies that are allowing businesses to start a business on top of what they provide as core capabilities. They have commerce, billing, payments, messaging, social media, whatever other things they want to offer, with an API set of layers that let different businesses build on top of them and basically build their business on top of them. And run a new business that didn't even exist before as a business on top of this platform. And this may be another alternative for where you want to go, right? So let me finish up with an example. So DBS is a bank headquartered out of Singapore, and they've done a lot of work in this space for multiple different scenarios. And the one I'm showing here is a home buying marketplace. So people who want to either buy houses or move from one house to another, and they have different types of customers, the top left, that talk about different people who are doing different types of buying. And their marketplace or their solution helps them plan their experience where they want to be, help them find the house, do the shopping for the house, all the things that they need, which includes moving and getting your utilities, and also the financing for the house, which is the part that DBS as a bank plays, right? And so I thought about this and I said, well, what is this? Is this an ecosystem? Is this a marketplace, or is this a platform? And if we were in person, I'd ask you to answer that question. But in my mind, this is that first definition of a platform, right? They have built an ecosystem and marketplace together that allow customers to do one-stop shopping for everything that they need to buy houses. And this is a great solution. And they've not only done this for buying houses, they've done it for many other things as well. So so this is kind of the state of the art of where things are from a ecosystem, marketplace, and platform perspective. So last chart, think about what your business next doors are. Think about how do you expedite these kinds of partnerships and what APIs you need to onboard those types of partners. Think about your marketplace. Do you really want to be the owner of a marketplace, and what are your goals in doing that? And what kind of validation are you doing of the companies that are in the marketplace for your potential consumers? And then platforms. Is this really where you want to be, and what's your roadmap to get there? So so that's it. I did mention on the first slide that this is an advanced topic. This is not the first thing you do with your APIs, and so so if you're not ready for this yet, don't worry about it. Most businesses are not, but this is certainly something that we're seeing a lot more attention being paid to, a lot more questions being asked. So think about this in the future. And with that, I'm finished. There are some backup slides, as I mentioned, which have all my links to my blogs that I'm just going to thumb through here and finish up. So,
right.
How did I do on timing? I think I'm just about.
Yeah, that's great. If you could just disable your screen share.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the two of us. Thank you so much for speaking about dispelling myths and clarifying terminology in this complex space where the risk of people miscommunicating over concepts that are so common, commonly used in and around the industry could create so much confusion. So
right.
Delighted to it's been great to hear, and we look forward to having you back in another 2 more sessions. I think you're now virtually leaping off to an IBM roundtable, and
that's right.
I'm delighted to introduce the next speaker. So thank you, Alan.
Okay, I'll hop out and I'll see you in a little bit for the Q&A.
Great.